Hello, Footballer Nation, and welcome to the greatest rising podcast in football. My name is Carson. I'm your Cardsaholic, coming at you after the Arizona Cardinals have finally found their guy in Mike LaFleur as their new head coach. I want to talk about all about it, but first, let's go ahead and roll that intro. What's going on, Footballer Nation, and welcome to Footballers Anonymous. The final head coaching spot in the NFL is finally filled. Very shortly after I made a shorts all over our socials, which you should go follow, by the way, on how frustrating it was that we hadn't done so yet, the Arizona Cardinals hired Mike LaFleur as their new head coach. I have a lot to say about him and a lot of questions, but first, I want to run through his resume and just give you guys a background on who he is if you don't already know. So, Mike LaFleur started coaching in 2009. Before that, he actually was a college quarterback, did not play in the NFL, but he has coaching experience since 2009. In 2014 is when we started seeing his name pop up a little bit more. He was an offensive intern with the Cleveland Browns. He would finally get a bigger shot with the San Francisco 49ers from 2017 to 2020. He was their passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach. In 2021, he got his really big break with the Jets as their offensive coordinator, where he did call plays. And then from 2023 to the present, he has been Sean McVay's offensive coordinator until now, when he was hired with the Cardinals. The Cardinals, they had 6 in-person interviews for their head coaching position after firing Jonathan Gannon, as well as 10 Zoom-only interviews. And Mike LaFleur was apparently hired this morning. So, a lot to talk about, a lot of questions, but overall, I really like this hire. I'm not going to lie. He was one of my favorite candidates. He's been my favorite candidate for a few weeks. Just been kind of waiting for him. I know that we waited a little bit because of Clint Kubiak. I really just assumed he was a lock for the Raiders and that we wouldn't get him, and was kind of surprised he was even still available. And a lot of people think that's why we waited so long to hire McVay. But apparently the deal was done this morning, which is before the thing with Kubiak was done. There's a lot going on. I don't know if Kubiak let the Cardinals know. I don't know. But regardless, a lot of people are calling this a desperation hire. I personally like it quite a lot. I think this is exactly what the Arizona Cardinals need overall. Like I said, he has experience as a passing game coordinator and a wide receivers coach, which is huge for obvious reasons. Obviously, our passing game and getting multiple wide receivers to produce has been one of the hardest things for us. Obviously, we have 2 excellent receivers on our team. We have Marvin Harrison Jr., who hasn't been able to figure it out, and we have Michael Wilson, who has only really been able to shine when Marvin Harrison Jr. is out of the way. So it's really exciting to see an offensive coordinator who put together an offense with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams being the dynamic duo coming here to hopefully fix our passing game. Now, one thing I know a lot of people are concerned about is that he wasn't calling plays with the Sean McVay offense. First off, I mean, when you're with Sean McVay, of course you're not going to be calling plays. It's Sean McVay. He's going to be calling his offense. But one thing I would like to know is they did actually have him start doing some play calls week 18 against the Cardinals, actually, where their offense put up a slightly slow start, probably because of the new play calling, and then they started to absolutely go off. So he has some great experience with play calling. Obviously, he did it for the Jets in 2021-22. They obviously weren't a great offense, but if you just look at the quarterbacks he had, Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, a couple other guys, that no one really there to help him. And I mean, it's the Jets. So it's good to know that he's at least experienced, and he's connected to both the Shanahan and McVay tree. He was the passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach for Shanahan, and obviously McVay's offensive coordinator. So he's definitely learned a lot from both of them. I honestly think this is a really good hire. I have a couple questions, though, that obviously will be answered within the next month or so. I'm looking forward to this press conference that we'll inevitably have with him when we finalize the deal, which looks like it's going to be a 5-year deal, by the way. So pretty big moves. They're really committing to LaFleur, and I'm honestly okay with it. But a couple questions. I'll start with the big one. What do we think he wants to do about quarterback? Quarterback's going to be a big question here, especially with Dante Moore not entering the draft this year. That is a huge hit for all of us quarterback needy teams. And let's be real, it doesn't look like we're going to get Mendoza unless Kubiak and the Raiders pull some crazy pick swap with us or something like that, because that kid is going first overall and he deserves it. So let's talk about it. First off, Kyler Murray. Do I think he's going to stick with Kyler Murray? I don't know. I don't know what the Kyler Murray situation is. I would be happy if we kept Kyler Murray. I understand if we trade him. He has one more year left on his contract until we have to pay him for his last year, and that will kick in on March 15th. So on March 15th, that is 5 days after the start of the NFL season, essentially. That is when Kyler Murray's contract kicks in, and we will pay him for his last year. So whatever we decide to do with him, it has to be decided over the next month and a half, essentially. If we want to trade him for any kind of value, it's going to have to happen within that time frame, essentially. So looking at overall insider reports, what things look like, it looks like the common asking price for Kyler Murray is going to be either a second or a third round pick, with possibly some smaller compensatory stuff added on as well. The main candidates supposedly are the Jets, the Vikings, Steelers, Dolphins, Browns, and Falcons. I have a lot of opinions for each of them. The Falcons, I could see the Falcons making a trade. I don't particularly think Michael Penix is going to end up being that guy, even though he's shown flashes, especially with a new coach. I wouldn't be surprised if they look into someone like Kyler. But Kirk Cousins, has kind of been balling out, so they could ride with him for a year or keep giving Michael Penix a chance. I don't think the Falcons are the most likely, but it's possible. The Browns, I think they like Shador too much. He's a Pro Bowler now. But I think the Browns stick with Shador. I don't think that's too much. The Dolphins, it's possible. I really see them making moves for Malik Willis, if I'm being perfectly honest. The Steelers are always a question mark at quarterback. They are always someone to look out for. I could totally see them making a move on Kyler. The Vikings, they're a I know this is a very popular one with Cardinals fans. A lot of us see him going to the Vikings. Obviously, I'm a JJ McCarthy defender, and I think he should be given another chance. I think he's shown a lot of flashes, and I think KOC would be smart to keep going with him, but that's a possibility. But the big, most realistic one I'm looking at is the Jets. They have 5 first-round picks over the next 2 years, so it is very, very possible to see if we were to get a first for Kyler from anyone, it would be the Jets, because they'd be making poor decisions and they have so many to work with. So the Jets would be a prime target for Kyler, and if we were to trade him away, I would see him going there. In which case, the question is, do we go for someone else? Do we go for our own Malik Willis? Do we sign some free agent, maybe a Russell Wilson, a Jameis Winston? Or do we ride with Jacoby Brissett for a year? All real valid questions. I don't have the answers to those, but I'm really looking forward to seeing this press conference to look into that. Other question I have, obviously we know how the wide receivers are probably going to work. We've got the best tight end in the NFL. There's a lot of good offense happening, but the run game is the big question. I know we have James Conner coming back from injury. I don't know how good he's going to be coming off of injury. He's always been our workhorse, but it was a pretty nasty hit he took. So I'm a little concerned there. So the question is, do we trade for someone? Do we trade for Breece Hall? I know that was a common one amongst the Bird Gang during free agency this year that we all really wanted. Or do we draft someone? Like, I know Jeremiah Love is a common draft pick for the Cardinals. Is that realistic? Do we think that's a possibility? He would probably be available at 3, so there is a legitimate chance we could go for Jeremiah Love, or we could stick with James Conner. Again, more questions as press conferences go and as training camp starts free agency. Those will be made more clear, but running back is another place that I'm really going to want him to see address. And then my last question is defensive coordinator. What are we doing on defense? Are we sticking with Nick Rallis? Because he hasn't moved anywhere. I would be okay with that. I know Raheem Morris was waiting for our head coaching position, but with all of those spots filled, do you think you go for him at defensive coordinator? Is that a possibility? I would be very happy with that. I don't know. These three questions, defensive coordinator, running back, and quarterback, these are the big things I want answered by Mike LaFleur. Obviously, we know what's going to happen with wide receiver. I'm going to want him to talk a lot about that. I'm going to want to hear how he's going to make those adjustments, how he's going to fix those big problems we've had. I'm excited to hear what he wants to do at quarterback. There's a lot of possibilities. It's a pretty big market right now. Should be fun. But yes, overall, Mike LaFleur, I think it's a good hire. I do not think it's a desperation hire. I actually think Michael Bidwell kind of cooked with this one. Doesn't mean I'm forgiving you for being cheap and making poor decisions, but I think you did a good job on this one, so I guess we'll find out. But what do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let us know in the comments below. Very excited to hear and very excited to see. I'll see you on our next episode of Footballers Anonymous coming out before the Super Bowl. And yeah, Footballer Nation, let's ride.